Hey everybody, what's up, Flock? Clinton Bonner here. You may know me as a dude who writes 3 and 3 out exclusively, as you know, for the Seahawkers Podcast. Figured we'd try something different this week because, maybe we just need to try something different as a Seahawks team, as a flock, right? Do something a little bit differently. Don't worry. I still got my trusty notebook, which I keep my 3 in 3 out notes every single week. But this week was different for a few reasons. Number one, it was on Christmas Eve, right? So kickoff is 4:25 Eastern. I live in Connecticut. So I was around the table with a laptop open, very rude of me likely, right? And still watching the game. But I didn't really get to watch the game, and I could not record it either. And I wasn't about to give Goodell more of my money, so I could watch it later, especially after the outcome. So I didn't really watch a lot of this game. So I think something more appropriate might be if we just call an audible, which if you read 3 and 3 out, we reserve the right to call audible sometimes. You see the defense line up against you and say, you know what, this ain't going to work. Let's try something new. So this week we're going to flip the switch a bit, and instead of going through the typical 3 good things, 3 bad things that kind of piqued our interest, the nooks and crannies we do like to talk about on 3 and 3 out, we're instead going to host and look at 3 questions for the Seahawks going forward. So it'll be a bit different. So, hold on to your fannies. I'm not sure that's a thing, but maybe it is now. Hold on to your fannies, and we'll try this with 3 questions. Okay. So let's get down to it, right? Let's get into question number 1 for the week on this very audibleized version of 3 and 3 out. So the first question is really kind of simple. Can we actually run the ball, right? Can we run the ball, right? Against the Carolina Panthers, we saw us shred a team, and we ran the ball down their throats. Against other teams, we've come out in the second half with like 5, 6, or 7 out of it, 8 runs, or 6 out of the first 8 plays being runs, and shove it down teams' throats and run the ball extremely effectively. However, if you look overall, we kind of stink at run the ball, right? And I saw a stat that Danny Kelly put out that the Seahawkers Podcast guys retweeted, saying that, first there's a 23.8% sack rate on pass plays, and we failed to gain so much as 1 yard on almost 31% of our rushing plays, right? So almost 1/3 of our rushing plays are failing to gain a single yard. So the answer is no, we cannot run the ball the way we're playing the game, right? We come out and we typically defer. Okay, I understand Pete's philosophy there. We get the ball back. Sometimes we're down 3-0. Sometimes we're down 7-0, and we get into this. Let's throw these little, short passes right away. And 4 or 5 plays deep, and we punt, and we haven't run the ball once. We haven't established ourselves. We haven't tried to impose our will. We've tried nothing to get the ball into Rawls' hands early. Now the man's hurt again. That brings up his durability, of course. Hopefully he just rests for the 49ers game and bounces back for what we hope is a bye week. We'll probably touch on that a little bit later. But the bottom line is, right now, this team is super, super erratic, right? 1 week we're out there, gangbusters, crushing it, run the ball, but most times we have not been. It's super frustrating. So that's question 1, and kind of answer 1, in my opinion, is that no, right? We cannot run the ball. So if that's the case, right, like a little if P then Q, a little modus tollens, or some sort of logical flow here, if we can't run the ball, if we're saying no, we actually can't run the ball, which is just hard to say, but there it is, right? If we can't, can we hand the game over to Russell Wilson much, much earlier? The way in which, and by this I mean the way in which, what do we do at the end of the Arizona game, right? We loosen things up. We throw the ball downfield. We're much more aggressive. And don't give me any of this. The Cardinals are not in some prevent defense. The Cardinals suddenly don't stop rushing people. They were none of those things, right? They kept the pressure on. We've seen this time and time and time again. Seattle is down. I don't know, maybe the Carolina game last year in the playoffs, right? When we're down big, and then we just open up the offense and let Russell just do Russell things. Well, his numbers were 350, yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. We allowed him just to go do his things. So if we can't run the ball, and right now I don't see evidence to the contrary that we can run the ball effectively and consistently. So if we can't, and if we're going to go down, can we go down swinging is my question. Can we go down swinging? Can we go down big? And can we go down letting Russell Wilson just do his thing? And if we lose, then so be it. because right now we're not winning anyway, right? So, and again, against a team like Dallas, if we end up having to go into Big D and play them, man, they are a well-oiled machine. They are going to put up points. So what's our answer? I'd love to hear from you guys on this one. So that is question 1 on the Audibleized 3 and 3 Out, which we know, of course, is written exclusively for the Seahawkers Podcast. Bum, bum, bum. Ooh, it's time for question number 2 on this week's 3 and 3 Out Audibleized edition. Okay, so this might be a little bit of heresy or perhaps hearsay, and I may be confusing words. It happens. I don't do video often. There's reasons for that, people. All right, number 2. Will the Tyler Lockett injury actually help Seattle's offense? I know, that sounds as dumb as it can be, and I understand dumb. Trust me on that one. But the question remains, will the Lockett injury actually help the Seahawks offense? Now, again, I think Lockett's year is kind of a shame in a nutshell, if you will. The man was ready to rock and roll. He got banged up early, right? He had the knee injury, week 2, I think it was. And it took him many weeks to kind of get back to full speed. We saw that on special teams. He just didn't have the same pep for a few weeks. Then he got back to full speed and he started being impactful once again. Then he finally took over and got Kearse's snaps and Kearse's targets. And he started producing huge, right? Just big time production. We had our burner. We had that deep threat. He wasn't just working the middle. He was obviously working the outside, and he had some special connection with Russell Carrington Wilson. And then the injury hits, nasty as can be. Salt in the wound with down at the half-yard line, extra vinegar, and then some more salt and, I don't know, some paprika, something else in the wound that we don't even get the ball in after the injury. Terrible break, all that stuff. All that aside, the question remains, is it possible that that the injury will help the Seahawks offense? So I'm going to answer this with a yes, it's possible, and here's why. Here's why it's possible, right? We are losing a big-time option, all right? We're hopeful that Richardson can come in and now take those snaps, and they don't just revert back to Kearse, because Kearse, if you read 3 and 3 Out, or if you just happen to watch Seattle Seahawks football games, he has not been all that good this year. However, if Richardson can come in and just kind of, he's not as good as Lockett, not even going to pretend, but he is serviceable. If he can be that deep threat, and it actually forces us as a team to throw the ball to 2 people specifically way, way, way more often, we may actually become a better offense. So if Doug Baldwin gets the ball just as much as he did last game, if not more, and if the Jimmy Graham could get the ball much more often and much more consistently, because now he kind of has to with the absence of Lockett, maybe, just maybe, this team's actually going to be better offensively with that less of a weapon out on the edge that is Tyler Lockett. Of course, we wish we had him. We wish him nothing but an incredibly speedy recovery. Get well, heal right. We'll see you in 2017. But maybe, just maybe, this will help our offense be a bit more consistent with who we throw the ball to, because now we're really down to 2 solid options. Think about that. That was question 2. And as you know, we're here. We're always here. All right, on to 3 we go. Question number 3. See that? See how the 2 becomes a 3? Transformation. We'll talk about transformation. So, question 3, we got to get, let's have some real talk here for a second. What percentage would you give our team, our beloved Seahawks, to get to the planet Houston, to get to the Super Bowl? What do you think? I'm going to give you my answer. Right now, I got to put this at about no more north than 30%. A couple of weeks ago, prior to the Thomas injury, maybe after the Patriots game or after the Carolina game, I was probably hovering around 75% confidence level that we'd be able to capture the number 2 seed without really any doubt, and then pull off a win somehow, some way in Dallas, and just find our way, likely playing the Patriots at this point with Carr now sidelined. Almost certainly playing the Patriots. We'll see how that plays out in the AFC. Regardless, at this point, I've got to dial that down to like somewhere around 28%. What an ugly number, too. 28%. My word. I grew up on Long Island. I got to think about Tom Curvers now. Any hockey fans out there, Google Tom Curvers. You might be disappointed. Pretty good defenseman, in all honesty, right? But and on some fun teams, too. But still, an ugly number. 28%. Yuck. But it's the truth. After Thomas, I don't see any evidence that we can cover the deep ball in any way close to how Thomas covered his area back there. It just is not there. Not seeing that whatsoever. With Lockett now done, I know question 2 was all about can we be even better? Yeah, sure, maybe. But with Lockett out, we're losing a really big piece of our offense and our special teams. Let's not forget the special teams aspect, the impact there, also huge. And I just don't, and again, back to question 1, we're not running the ball particularly well all season. So it's very difficult to see this team putting together what would have to be at this point likely potentially 3 victories in order to get back to the Super Bowl, which is where we need to be, where we want to be. Is it impossible? It is certainly not impossible. Can this team do it? They absolutely can do it. So who are some players and some areas that need to step up for us to make it there? To me, it is pretty darn simple. Our offense is what our offense is. That's not so good, but it is what it is. So I want to see them just hand the thing over to Russell and go for it in that regard. And again, let's try to actually establish a running game early, but we shall see if we ever attempt that this year. But the unit that has to step up is the front 7. It has to be. The games in which we get little to no pressure, we are just getting destroyed. People are putting up, high 20s, low 30s against us, and it's just not our path to victory. So, we're looking at Bennett, who hopefully is 100% healthy at this time. We need Frank Clark, who's having a great sophomore season, to keep doing what he's doing. But frankly, we need Chris Richard to dial some things up and take some risks, because without it, we're not getting it done anyway. So we've got to take some risks. Earlier in the season, we saw some linebacker blitzes hit home. KJ Wright getting some sacks. Wagner getting some sacks. Years past, I remember Lane flying off the edge for a random but much needed, cornerback blitz, right? Haven't seen any of that this year. I know we're not a big blitzing team, but we've got to find a way to get pressure on these quarterbacks. We're going to go up against some of the best talent, whether that ends up being like Matt Ryan, ends up being Dak Prescott, which, by the way, that guy is legit and can ball. We have to find ways to get in the quarterback's face. The games in which we're not doing it, we really don't have much of an opportunity to win those games. We're going to have to go on some sort of a run, and it's going to have to be through our defense. We know this already, but the part of the defense that's going to have to step up is that front 7 has got to get way more consistent pressure. That's what it's going to be. All right, hey, listen, this was an inaugural first and perhaps a last, who knows, but it was fun. I'll tell you that much. It was fun to record this. I'm going to smash this together with my very amazing editing skills. You're going to see those on full effect, I'm sure. But most importantly, we do it because you guys are awesome, right? To the folks from the pod, thanks so much for having me on week in, week out to write that article. Love doing it. So to anybody out there that does not listen to the Seahawkers podcast, come on, do better. Do better. Let me remove the URL. Go there, listen, download it, get it on your iPhone, get it on your Android. There's so many ways to listen. For those who are in the flock who already understand this, just keep doing what you're doing. You guys are all great. Let's have an amazing week 17, and let's hopefully capture the 2 seed, and let's head into the playoffs with some confidence. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy New Year. Very, very most importantly, go Hawks. Talk soon. Peace.